afternoon, everybody. With this beautiful summer weather, I thought I would show you guys how to make a tomato soap. That's right. We're going to use actual real tomatoes. They make for an amazing facial soap and body soap. They have a ton of wonderful nutrients and acids in it, so they're great for the complexion. Specifically, they're very good for acne-prone skin as well. So those that are, sweating it out in the heat and dealing with a little bit of an extra oily skin, this is going to do wonders for you, okay? So what I've done is I've taken some of our local tomatoes and I pureed them up in the blender, and then I used my stick blender on them, got them really fine. I weighed out what would normally be my water in my recipe, and instead I used the tomato for my water. I poured it into an ice cube tray, and it's frozen now for a couple of hours. So you can use this in any of your favorite soaping recipes. Just replace the water content for your tomato puree. There's a couple of ways to do this. You can also, if you're not comfortable doing it this fashion, you can add it in later at trace at a 50% amount. So when you're making your lye water, say you have 286 grams of water, you would use half of that with your lye and water and set aside to cool, and once your soap is at trace, you could add the other half of that water amount in tomato puree or paste or even tomato juice. All kinds of different ways you can use the tomato itself. So I will put a recipe, an example recipe for you below, so you have something to play with. But again, you can use it with any recipe. I've got a couple of different additives I'm going to be adding in. So I've got my pureed tomato frozen. I've got some kaolin clay. I like to add the kaolin clay because it's good for all skin types, even sensitive skin. And it's also a nice way to draw out toxins. It'll add a little bit of a silky glide to your soap. It's just an all-around beautiful thing to add to your soaps. And I've also got some Italian seasonings here. These are just going to be for a little bit of decoration on the tops if you choose. I wouldn't put them in the soap because then you're going to be making it relatively scratchy. And if people plan on using this on their face, you're probably not going to want to add any exfoliant inside the soap. Now, I also have a fragrance oil. Now, some people with sensitivities would want to use an essential oil like a bergamot or tarragon or anything of that nature. Always use it in low dosages for anything that's going to be used on the face. So this would be what I would normally use in one of my batches of soap. Okay? I'm going to use about half to maybe a quarter to a half of that. So look at the fragrance or your essential oil usage rate and cut it in half. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to start off by unmolding my tomato cubes. And I've weighed this out exactly, so I already know how much I have, and I don't have to reweigh it. I'm going to add this to my bowl. Now you can also do this over an ice and water bath to help keep it cool. But I'm going to move kind of slow, so it shouldn't heat up too much on me. Okay. Now the trick to melting ice cubes with your lye is to move slowly. Those of you that do milk soaps, anything like that, you know what I'm talking about. Frozen, move slow with your lye. Okay? So I've already pre-measured out my lye, and I'm just going to begin with a little bit of it. Sprinkle over the top. and start to stir. Let me bring the camera in closer for you. Now, if you just dumped all of your lye in and started stirring right away, you're going to burn the tomato, and it's going to turn this horrible, stinky, yucky brown. Ugh. It's not very pleasant. And you lose a lot of the benefits if you overheat it too much. So you really kind of want to keep it cool. And you want to keep that beautiful red color. Again, the hotter it gets, the browner it goes. So see, I've already got some liquid going here just from the heat of the lye being added, a little at a time. But it's also staying nice and cool. There we go. Now I'm going to add a little bit more. I generally do it in about 3 stages. Now see how it's going a little bit oranger? But we're moving slow, so we're keeping that beautiful color, keeping all those yummy nutrients intact. Again, if it starts to overheat too much on you, grab a stainless steel bowl, or even go in the sink, throw in some cold water and some ice, and sit this on top of it while you're stirring. That'll help keep it from overheating too much. But if you move slow, you won't have that problem. Okay, so that's all incorporated. My next round. And I might do it in 4 stages. There we go. Now there's a debate out there in the soaping community that if you add vegetable matter to your soaps, you need to add a preservative. And I have to say, you know what, it's a personal preference. I myself have been soaping vegetable matter soaps for over 20 years, and I have never had to add one. I've never had a soap mold. I've never had it go bad on me. I've spoken to a few different lab technicians who've done testing on soaps with high vegetable matters like this, and they don't find it a problem. Generally, once you go through the saponification process, there's really not enough fibers left to create a mold. Okay? Because mold, you know, is a living organism, and it wants to eat something. And really, soap isn't the most pleasant thing to eat, even for them. Alright, we're going to use the last of our lye. And see, because we went slow, we have this gorgeous color. Oh. Simply beautiful. Now make sure you completely dissolve all your lye. Okay, you need to feel the bottom of that bowl. Make sure you're not feeling any granules rolling around in there. You don't want any of that sediment. So make sure it's completely dissolved. Okay. Now at this point, it's starting to warm up a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this into the freezer just to get it to cool back down again before it starts to burn that. Or again, put it on an ice bath. So we'll be back in probably about 15 or 20 minutes once it's gotten down nice and cool. Now while that's cooling, you can pour your oils, get your soaping stuff ready. I've already measured out all my stuff. I've already got my oils all melted and ready to go. And today I'm using olive oil, rice bran oil, sunflower oil, and one of my favorite oils, avocado oil. Now, a lot of people always prefer to put butters in. I think depending on the soap that you're trying to make should really determine the oils that you use. I'm not going to use a butter today. I'm using coconut oil for my hardening factor and olive oil. Olive oil starts off as a soft oil, but as it cures, it becomes one of the more harder oils in the soaping world. So castor oil, coconut oil, olive oil, rice bran oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil. That's the oils I'm using today. Now you can also add a little bit of colorant with the tomato red. It doesn't take a lot. Now also, if you're doing a facial soap, you're not going to necessarily want to use a colorant. You may want to use an all-natural colorant. I like to infuse my oils with paprika. If you infuse your oils with a little bit of paprika a day or two in advance, by slowly warming them on the stove and then letting them set and then straining out the paprika, you can get a beautiful orange hue to your soaps. Okay, so our lye mixture has cooled off, and I'm giving it just another stir to move around all that fiber, make sure there's no chunks. Fabulous. Alright. So now I'm going to bring in my oils. I'm going to grab my stick blender. And I'm going to grab my clay. Now, depending on your recipe, you're going to use about a teaspoon per pound of oils. Okay? And I'm going to give that a little zip zip before we add our lye. Just so I don't get any clumps. Okay. And now we're going to slowly add our lye and tomato solution. Now I'm soaping at very cool temperatures. These are both under 100 degrees. If you soap at hot temperatures, you're going to get that burnt brown, and you're also going to accelerate your trace much faster. So tomato on the brain. So soap at relatively cool temperatures. So I'm just going to sort of hand mix this in right now. There we go. Also, when you stick blend, you increase the temperature as well, because you're vibrating those molecules. So try to hand incorporate in as much as you can, and kind of save your stick blending for towards the end. So now I'm going to add my fragrance. And today I'm choosing to use tomato leaf coriander. I love this scent. This is great for a garden soap. No, it does not smell like tomatoes. It has a very leafy green scent. Very bright and fresh. If you ever smelled the leaf of a tomato, it's that kind of scent. With a hint of that coriander in it to brighten it up. It's very nice. Okay? So now we're going to add our scent. And I'm going to use a whisk at this point. Now, do you see the color? As it's slowly coming up, still this beautiful orangey red color. Now, if you've ever soaped with vegetable matter or plant material, you'll know that most of it eventually turns brown, and it's kind of icky. Not always the prettiest. So, if you'd like to keep it natural, do a paprika infuse like I had discussed about earlier. There's a few other different ways. But I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of the tomato leaf. It is a pigment resting in glycerin, so it's not going to be harmful for the skin at all. But because it is red, you're not going to want to use a lot, because you don't want to get that, bleeding of the red into skin on the face. So it's just going to be a little bit. Alright, so most of my stuff feels relatively incorporated. So now I'm going to hit it with the stick blender. Look at those beautiful little red pieces from my puree. There we go. Now I've brought this to a nice medium trace. And I'm going to try to get out some of those air bubbles before I even put it into the mold. Go. So now I'm going to pull the camera back so you can see me pouring into the mold. And in we go. Isn't that beautiful? Those little specks from the outside peel of the tomato. I love that. I want to get every last yummy drop of this. Okay. Now we're going to tamp it out a little bit again. and grab one of my skewers. And I'm not doing heavy peaks or anything. I'm actually breaking bubbles. I'd like this to be really smooth. So I'm going in while it's still liquidy and breaking up any bubbles that are in there. There we go. You can see lots of little ones pop into the surface, and this helps to break it apart. Alright. There we go. See those little bubbles popping up? Sometimes tamping your mold just isn't enough. Alright. So now I'm going to play with the top of it and give it just a little bit of dimension. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to put my Italian seasonings right down the center. Bear in mind, a lot of this won't stick, so go a little heavy on it, depending on how much you want on the soap, because when it's done and you're ready to unmold it, a lot of the excess will fall off. So if you didn't really put in that much, you might not get a big enough effect that you're hoping for. So I put it in, and I just poke a little bit here and there. Not a lot, just where it seems like it hasn't really settled in. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to cover this with saran wrap, and I'm going to force it to gel. And here we go. Here is our finished soap. Getting ready to cut it. Cleaning off some edges. Came out beautiful. Lovely, lovely. I'm going to trim off some of the ends. Oops. See how the inside is orange? It's because I forced the gel. That outside is kind of pinkish red. There we go. Now because I have herbs on the top, I'm going to flip it over and cut it. That way they don't drag through the soap. Beautiful. Oh, love it. Smell still came through nicely. Not too strong, but it's definitely there. Very happy with this. There we go. So by the time I upload this video, I will have these soaps listed on my personal website. They should be ready to go. And I'm going to slice this one up into sample pieces. I get a lot of people ask me where I get my cutter from. The company is currently not in business. It's a TOG mold cutter. So I'm sorry, I do not have another alternative at this time. There are a few of my soaping friends online. If you look up soap cutters on YouTube, you should come across a few of them. Alright. There we go. Tomato leaf and coriander soap.